Welcome back to the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast here on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, and YouTube. On today's episode, I have an interview I'm really excited for you guys to hear. It's with Nashville rapper Kaby. Kaby is releasing his brand new album, Era of the Trihard, a follow-up to his debut album Here that was award-winning. And I was really fortunate to get to talk with him and really discover the process behind this album and what it all means to him. All right, so what has the process been like going into this album?
Man, we really just knew we wanted to do something different. You know, it started out with Nate and I, Nate Benson. Him and I have been working together for about 8 years. And, we just really wanted to start something different. We always kind of wanted to do something with a live feel. So we just worked a while, just got some of our favorite, local session players to come in. And, we just worked with a bunch of people and start all these songs from scratch, and I'd be present for the whole process and just kind of writing along the way when we first started out the project. And we worked on the project for a little over 2 years, so I actually kind of shifted my writing process through the creation of this album. I stopped actually using pen and pad, and it became a lot easier for me just to kind of do it in the booth. Just working with just a completely different musicality, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you listen to this project, you can just tell how incredibly diverse, and I would call it sonically kind of layered. So, how much collaboration was there on that production end of it?
It was predominantly Nate. We started the project out with a guy named Dan Hoisington. He was in a band called Machines Are People Too. Which is I don't think I ever got to hear anything from them, but they were kind of like an electronic, indie rock kind of thing. So he brought in this old 1976 old Juno keyboard, all those original synth sounds you hear in old 80s new wave stuff, you know. So he brought that in, and we started out with that, and then we brought Mike Ewing in because he'd already kind of messed with us in the past. And then those two together just start bouncing ideas off one another, and they work together so well. So it was really just them three, and then we'd go, okay, we need some mod bass for this, so we'd bring somebody in, or we'd go, it'd be dope to get some glockenspiel on this one, so we'd bring somebody in to do that, live drums, and so it was really just them kind of handling what they heard on the project. And me, I'm not a composer guy. That's not something I really have a passion for, but I love to arrange, and I'm a big picture guy, so I would feed into that, and I learned a whole lot about the process just going through that with them as well,
Mm-hmm.
It was cool.
Yeah, because if I could give you one, I guess what I'd say compliment coming off this project is that how well you're able as an artist to kind of go in between all these creative and different kind of soundscapes on these beats and just the music in general. That's the thing I really took away from it, was how diverse and different this really sounded.
Oh yeah, man, that was the hardest part, honestly, was narrowing it down to 10 songs. I mean, because we did 80 plus songs for the record, and there's a lot of songs that we really wanted to make fit on the album, but Nate and I, just as for our personal taste, we like 10-song albums. So I think that's a good even number. I think, it's not too short, it's not too long. And we're kind of in this era right now with people doing really long albums, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I think it's always good leaving the listener wanting some more. So.
Mm-hmm, exactly. I mean, I think I saw that somewhere. And I meant to ask you about that. How many songs you really recorded for this thing? How difficult was that process? Just getting it down to 10. Was there a lot of you to leave out there that you thought, oh, maybe this should make it on another project some other day?
I was pulling my hair out. I mean, it was a process. I mean, because it literally took us a few months to really narrow it down, because there were several that Nate really, because at the end of the day, it's Nate and I's project, so we were making the final call on it. And, there's a lot of songs that he was fighting for that I didn't necessarily want on the album. and some songs I was fighting for that he didn't necessarily want on the album. So, with any producer artist relationship like that, it's a two-way street. So we had to kind of meet in the middle with some of them, But we finally settled on the perfect 10, we think, and then we went back and did the mixing process and mastering and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. One thing I want to touch
So,
on
yeah.
about this album is the name of it, because that's something that really stood out to me when I saw it. Era of the Tryhard. Can you just describe what went into picking that name?
And we were, I think it was, you've heard the album before, I'm guessing, at this point, correct?
Yes.
You're right. So when we were doing the song Understand, we did I think that was like a 17-hour session. We worked until, I didn't get to track my vocals until I think it was 6:30 or something the next morning. And I think it was just at 4 a.m. or something. We didn't have any idea what the project was going to turn into, what the name of it was going to be. And it just kind of clicked with me because I thought it was so funny that we just kind of kept hearing more and more sounds on it. We were like, oh man, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And it kind of just coincided with a feeling I was already picking up from other art at the time and just other music and, other shifts in hip hop where I feel like people are trying to convey such specific things, instead of maybe just letting inspiration happen. And it kind of felt like we were the culmination of that night. We were just letting inspiration just happen, one little spark after another. And so I kind of thought it would be funny. I was like, Era of the Tryhard. I was like, that's a great fucking album, man. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse. Can I curse?
Yeah, you're all right.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. But yeah, man, it just, it just kind of clicked, and we were, and then we all kind of started cracking up about it. And then, and I was really only halfway serious, and then Nate kind of chimed in, and he was like, no, that's the perfect album, man. I was like, oh shit, I guess that's the album name then,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that, it was kind of weird because you almost think of Tryhard as having some kind of negative connotation, but it's I think it fits the album perfectly. I think it really kind of picks up on that you guys tried very hard on this, obviously, but that it's so diverse and so complete of a project.
Right. Yeah, and that was kind of the thing, is it's probably the most production that went into a thing that we've created, but I guess just the funny thing about it is that we didn't really necessarily seek out to do that. It's just that it ended up being that way. It was just so-and-so would end up being in the studio that day, and then they'd end up laying down something that we never would have even considered to put on a rap record. You know what I mean? And it just was one thing after another like that. The whole thing's been a pretty wild. The way things coincidentally have lined up has been pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. So this album is coming off of your award-winning album Here. Did you feel any kind of pressure to come off of that one that received some accolades and almost try to top it?
I actually didn't even consider it, to be honest with you. That never really. I just knew that I didn't want to make the same album twice. I guess was the main thing. It was just okay, dope. I've always wanted to do an album that was kind of soul sample based and was a little more boom bap, and I'm sure I'll make another album like that again one day too. But we just knew we wanted to move forward, and I thought we really needed that staple to be in this landscape, just because that's where I come from. That's where I come from, listening to and studying hip hop. I mean, I was all about hip hop as a little kid, reading everything I could, watching everything I could, watching all old MTV rap interviews and So it was just something that was important for us to do, but I think we just really wanted to do something progressive with the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I also saw in a quote you mentioned how you've been focused on music for your adolescent and adult life, but the last 25% has been focusing on business. Where do you think you are in your career as of right now and leading up to the release of this album?
As a career, I'd say I'm, we're right there. We're taking our first steps. I think we were crawling, and now we're finally starting to kind of waddle our way through the living room. I feel like artistically, I don't think I'll ever really know where I am, because I feel like I don't sound the same as I did a month ago, as I did, last year, and da 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 da. But I think we're waddling through the living room, and we're just getting started, I think.
Well, I mean, it certainly is, I would say, a very good step in the right direction. And there's also another quote that I saw from you that I think that really just stuck out to me. And it said, at the end of the day, you said, I want to contribute to the culture, not to extract. Can you just explain what you meant by this?
Yeah, I think that a lot of there's also kind of been a trend of people saying, like, they don't want to be referred to as a rapper, or they're just an artist, or they don't really care so much about what the history of hip hop, or for me, all that stuff's extremely important, and I'm just not really a big fan of people using like hip hop as like a stepping stone or like a building block. Like I think that there's a lot of room for growth within hip hop, and that's how hip hop came to be, was people experimenting with sounds and just seeing what can be done next. Like, I watched some old hip hop documentary they had on Netflix, and there were guys from like 81 to 83 bitching about what the guys from 84 to 87 were doing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, like, that's how fast, when hip hop really hit the ground running, like, that ball was rolling, so it was snowballing, like, it was just changing so quickly. It was changing so quickly that people just from a couple of years prior weren't even comfortable with it, Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's something that needs to keep moving forward. But I think that for that to happen, that people, for lack of another thing, they kind of need to give a shit about it. You know what I mean? Like, they need to care about it. So that's kind of my thing. Is like, that's my goal. Is I really want to move the genre forward. I think that this kind of project has the power to do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, look, you mentioned there like the '80s and everything. It's crazy. The coolest thing about hip hop, I think, and whenever I listen to older music and then listening up to it nowadays, is just how many shifts the genre's gone through, and still each time being relevant and almost, I would think in a lot of cases adding to it, and just showing that it's a genre that constantly transforms. It has new ideas and new sounds in it. I think that's what makes hip hop so great.
Exactly. It's like hip hop is supposed to be, balls to the wall, like whatever you want to do, like whatever you're thinking of. Like, that's why I was so drawn to like a Young Thug, or like I was so drawn to like Ghostface as a kid, like people that really like push those boundaries. Like, it took people like years to understand half of the shit that Ghostface was saying, and people still to this day, I mean, there's still some lines that I still don't, I probably never will get, but like, I like that kind of stuff. I like people that really like think outside the box with that stuff,
Yeah.
And that's how you lead the progression, for sure.
Yeah, because if no one's pushing the boundaries, then where's the genre going, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So, now with this project all done and it's set for release, just what are your final thoughts going into it?
That's a really good question, man. You know what? I really don't know, man. I just really want people to. I told Nate the other day, I was like, my end goal is just for people to think, hey, that weird idea I had last week, I should do that. I just want people to feel like whatever they're thinking that they want to do, or whatever they see themselves doing, like, just do it. Like, there's no reason you can't accomplish anything, and I guess that's kind of the thing. Is like, like, I record every day. Like, I have thousands of songs, like, literally, like, it's just something I have to do, and with this project, it really took me like having to really like focus on what the album was, You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I really just want people to put some importance into their visions and their dreams. You know what I mean? But if anything, that's what I'd like people to take away from it. So I really just hope that's what people feel about it, you know?
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was such an awesome time. I can't wait for everyone to hear Era of the Tryhard. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too, man. If you don't mind me asking, what's your favorite record off the album?
I liked French Goodbye. That was the one I felt like I kept pressing replay on.
Nice. Yeah, that's in my top 3 for sure.
I think the chorus the chorus on that one's what got me. It's just it just jumped out at me as soon as I heard it, and I just had to re-listen to that. It was crazy.
Yeah, man, that wasn't even within my wheelhouse, man. Like I was singing it normally, you know. French goodbye, hey, you were good at saying hello. And then Nate just chimed into my ear back in my headphones. He goes, "Bro, why don't you try just scream it? Just scream it at the top of your lungs." I'm thinking, scream it, you know. He's like, "Yeah, scream that motherfucker." I'm like, "Okay, all right." And I'm just in there, I just started. He's like, "No, louder, you know." And we just kept pushing it, and yeah, it turned out kind of cool, you know.
Yeah, I think it really worked out there. It almost jarred me when I first was listening. I was making dinner, and all of a sudden I had my headphones on, and then that chorus came on. It just kind of jarred me awake, you know, maybe look up and stuff.
You're like, wait, what? This record took a shift. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the album, and thank you so much for having me on the show today, for sure.
A big thank you to Kaby for coming on to the show. Remember, check down in the description on whatever platform you're listening to, because the links will be down there for all of his music and social media. Now, that'll wrap it up for this edition of the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Remember to subscribe on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube. Wherever you like podcasts, that is where this is. On YouTube, I am publishing some video podcasts now with some Skype interviews and hopefully some in-person interviews soon, so check that out as well. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JacksonNeill20. Those links are in the description as well, so go down there and check out all that great stuff. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.